Hello, boxing fans. We're here with another news update. I'm Kurt Ward, and I'm joined by Paul Webb, Brian King, and Alex Morris. And we're going to be discussing the news today that the May 30th show featuring Linares against Mitchell, Gradovic against Lee Selby, Cal Brook against Frankie Gavin is going to be a pay-per-view event. As ever, the word the words pay-per-view has caused a bit of a Twitter storm, and forum people have been going to the forums and having their say. It seems that people are not happy, especially after the last pay per view that Matchroom put on. I mean, just on paper, this card, in my opinion, is a great card and one of the best British cards that I've seen in a long time. But still, the fact that it's going to be pay per view and it hasn't got a one big star on it has left a lot of people a bit angry. Alex, I'll come to you first. What do you make of this pay per view?
What are you talking about? It's got a very big star on it. It's got the future heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua.
I
He's on
forgot
it
it.
against yeah, he's against Kevin Johnson, and as we all know, Kevin Johnson brings a lot of banter. So he fills a lot of the criteria that Eddie sets for Joshua's fighters. So it's just an amazing card. And sarcasm aside, it is a very good card. It's a very strong, solid card. Probably the best Eddie Hearn has put on since his reign of terror began at Sky, and better than a lot of Frank Warren's back in the day as well. So you should be very proud of it. But the problem is, as you said, there isn't a big marquee star to attach the pay-per-view Skybox Office label to, which is a big problem it seems for a lot of casual fans. And I thought that this would go down quite well as pay-per-view. I thought that a lot of people would be happy with this, considering the amount of 50-50 fights that are on it. Even from top to bottom, it's full of great fights. But people are outraged. People are really pissed off about this pay-per-view. Probably, I wouldn't say as pissed off as they were about Bellew Clev in the beginning, but it seems that way. I've been, reading through a lot of tweets and going through social media, and about 80% are negative. 80% are like, why are you ripping us off? Why are you sticking this on box office? You're a mug. Why are you treating us like mugs? This is shit. You're not fooling me again. I have to bail you cleverly. And the
But
funny.
has that surprised you though? Because I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I was always certain that this was going to be a pay per view, and
Oh
the
yeah,
fact that last week when they said Cal Brook was going to be on it, that left no doubt whatsoever.
no,
So I
I
don't know.
I
I'm
thought
shocked at the surprise.
I thought that it would be straight on to pay per view as soon as they announced the two world title fights, the Gradovic, Selby, and God, what's the one? Kevin Mitchell and
Linares.
Linares. Yeah, I knew it would be pay per view straight away from that because he's not gonna. The problem is when you compare it to all the other cards that Ed's been putting on, this has to be pay per view, and this is the problem. That and I won't steal all of the hate and the thunder from this myself, but obviously what he's doing, what Ed is doing, is trying to serve up a massive truckload of shite so that a decent card or an above average card looks pay per view worthy. But fortunately, it seems that people are pissed off about it enough to not really be sated by what they're being offered up. They realised that they got served up by such atrocious muck from the Bellew Cleverly pay per view that they're starting to see through his nonsense. And the irony here is that the ignorance of the fans that he's breeding to his little matchroom cult aren't realizing that this card is actually really good and there's 50-50 fights because they haven't got a fucking clue who Linares is and who Gradovic is. So, it's come back to bite him in the ass and I'm laughing and I hope it fucking tanks.
Brian, do you think it'll tank?
I was coming on here with a bit of positivity about this, and I've sat and listened to him and I'm fucking raging. Um, I've actually not got a problem with it being pay per view. That's probably more to the point that what Alex says, that we've had that much shite and Bellew was on pay per view, that this looks absolutely great. But this is probably the best card I've seen in years. Um, I don't think it'll tank. I think it'll actually do well. But look, see with the amount of names it's on, it's probably going to cost him a fucking fortune as well. He put this on, so whether it does well for him is another
It's not got
question.
a star, unfortunately. This is the point that the Bellew Clev did so well because it had DeGale and Groves and did it have Joshua on it? I think it did. And it
But
had
that
those
had that,
stars.
that had the grudge as well, didn't the Value and Cleverly? They didn't like each other, so
That
That's
grudge was
true.
fucking garbage, man.
They need to start putting up a fake grudge between Gavin and Brook. Does one of them have a maths degree or anything? Or
I think Frankie Gavin might have one.
knows the stabber. That's what it'll be. Name that stabber. I don't know. I'm quite happy the fact that, by the looks of it, Joshua's going to be fourth down the fucking list. That's where he should be. Never mind that headline.
He won't be. He'll be co-headliner.
Oh, he fucking better not be. Honest to fuck. Like, I mean, you've got 3 world title fights after that. Personally, I didn't really have a problem. Like, I didn't think it was like pay-per-view until Brook got added, and we always knew that Brook was going to be a pay-per-view fighter anyway. He was going to try and make him pay-per-view last year. Like he turned around and says, if he beats Porter, his next fight's going to be in pay-per-view. Then he goes to Tenerife, tries to get his bobby sucked off a fucking man, then gets done with a machete. And next thing you know, he's out for about 6 months. So it is what it is. But this card just epitomises everything to why Eddie Hearn is an actual cunt, right? He's made a show once again for Birmingham, and he's pulled the fucking headliner off it to put him in there, right? Fair enough, he's a world title fight. Well, it doesn't fucking matter. You've got people once again bought tickets for that show, and you can say, they can get a refund. That's not the fucking point. It's not the point. You can get a refund. They purposely bought tickets to go to a show. I mean, they're probably going to stick that Joshua on that again, and he's going to headline another fucking show.
Paul, I'll come to you with this one. I mean, where do you stand on like the pay-per-view model? Because some fans are of the opinion that it should only be there for the mega fights that need pay-per-view. You know, your Klitschko, Hay, your Mayweather, Pacquiao's, those, you know, your Froch, Kessler's fights. Other people would prefer like a good competitive card like this one is. So where do you look at this?
The pay-per-view model should only be there if you've got 2 fighters who will not fight each other unless pay-per-view money is available. It should never be used as let's lump lots of good fights together and then charge people 15 or 20 quid for it. It should only be for the absolute elite fights where fighter A and fighter B will not get in the ring unless the money is so high and people have pay-per-view is about demand. If people demand to see David Haye, Klitschko, or Mayweather, Pacquiao, whoever in the ring together, then pay-per-view works absolutely fine. The problem is this show now has got 3 very good fights on it. No one has any issue with the card. I think a lot of people today have been slagging off the Brook fight. They didn't even need to put the Brook fight on it, and they could have still probably gone pay-per-view. But they've put it on. It's the best bill that Matchroom have put on. I've been looking back through all their old shows. It's the best one they've put on in years, and it's probably one of the strongest Sky box office lineups we've seen in years. However, I would have much rather had, I know the dates wouldn't work, but say, for example, a May show, the Birmingham show, Brook versus Gavin. Why not have Selby Gradovic in Cardiff with Cleverly on the undercard? Why not have Kevin Mitchell at the O2 of Anthony Joshua? And spread them out over several weeks? Because the problem we've got is the shows this year from Matchroom have been absolutely dire. I mean, tomorrow night is they've done 10,000 tickets, but Christ, it's a shoddy looking card.
It's not really. Ed Draper says it's a massive night of boxing.
well, yeah, but I mean, it's just that's what I mean though. You look at Newcastle, Hull, the show tomorrow, all dire, and instead what they've done is they've lumped them all these good fights on one bill just so you can charge 20 quid for it. And box office, I've always hated it. I've paid for it. I'll be paying in the future, and I've paid in the past for it. But it's the only sport, apart from UFC and some of the combat sports, that can abuse this model and take their fans for a ride. How many fans will be watching this? It will probably sell well, but nowhere near as many as there should be because of greed. Again, this one isn't about greed of fighters, because Frankie Gavin isn't going to make a lot of money on this show. Lee Selby's not going to make a lot of money on this show. Kevin Mitchell's not going to make a lot of money. If they headline their own show on regular Sky, they probably get paid better. But what Hearn wants to do and what Adam Smith and Sky want to do is lump them all, charge you 20 quid for it, and then they're laughing to the bank, and then give us the next few months of Coyle versus Campbell. And Coyle Campbell's the best fight we've got to look forward to this summer.
Well, that's the trap that many fans are worried that they're gonna fall in. That, you know, we get all the regular crap on, you know, normal Sky Sports, and anything that's decent or good is lumped straight onto pay-per-view, you know, stacked all into one card like this has been. And then they can put, you know, like you said, the Leeds show, the whole show, and we can get a lot of average cards that really, you know, that haven't got a lot of interesting fights on.
Well, this is where they should... Go on.
I was going to say, well, the Cleverly value card and the success of that has completely changed the way that they look at pay per view and how they can. I mean, if that did as the numbers that they said it did, then that we did a massive amount. And obviously, stacking names on it will work. But I just don't like what it's done. I mean, I've been banging on for years about getting a show in Birmingham because obviously that's where I'm from. We finally got a show, and it's terrible. They've torn the arse out of it, taking Gavin off that show. The whole show was built around Gavin signing a match room. There's no other fights really announced on it properly apart from your fives. So what? I mean, what's the point of even doing that show? They're just going to whack Joshua on. Joshua's even said in the video in IFL that he's going to be against, someone's probably try and give him a few rounds. He knows he's going to be against someone's shit because he's got a fight at the end of the month. They're ruining that show just to move a fight 20 days down the line. It just seems stupid to me.
Alex, what was you going to say then?
I forgot my point. Sorry. I'm just trying to think. I think it was mostly. I was just going to agree basically on the point of pay-per-view and things like that about this card is basically. People will say that pay-per-view is justified for this card, and it is because there's a lot of good fights on. There's a lot of good fights and big name fighters, and the people that they're bringing across probably need to justify the pay-per-view. But they've made this card specifically to be pay-per-view. It's not as if that they couldn't make this card without it. They could as Paul said, you could easily spread the fights out across the other cards. And the cards that we're being dealt with at the moment, like the Leeds and the Hull and the Newcastle, that caliber should be on Fight Pass, which Fight Pass has been left to rot basically. They're using that as a ticket tout essentially, so people can buy their tickets early and sell them on StubHub, Matchroom official StubHub,
Team StubHub.
Right, exactly, and they're criminally underusing Fight Pass, and that's where these awful shows should be used, and normal Sky Sports should be used for the show that we're getting on May 30th. It's simple as that, but no, they're trying to con you out. It is as simple as that. Tony's right and would be right in that situation. It's complete shit, and yeah, I agree it's pay-per-view and it's worth it, but when you compare it to everything else that we've been given, it really puts a dampener on it, and it makes you realise that, yeah, it's only worth pay-per-view because of the shit that we've been given over the past few months.
What they've also done as well is they've purposely put it in London and up to prices again. I mean, this is actually more expensive. See before, like Brook and the rest of them get added on it. Like, it was basically like Kevin Mitchell. Don't know if it was definitely Lee Selby. Kevin Mitchell wasn't verified yet, right? The prices were already more expensive than Bellew Cleverly last year, and Sky went fucking apeshit with hype to get that. So basically, they've put it in London, they've put the prices up, just to rob you a wee bit more money. They're going to put it on pay-per-view. I mean, have they revealed how much it is? Is it back down to $16.95, or is it the state keeping it at the Mayweather price?
Not being confirmed yet, but you just mentioned Mayweather. That's the other issue, isn't it? The fact is you're going to have the May 2nd pay-per-view. People are already shelling out for Sky Sports, which is obviously a lot of money a month. Mayweather Pacquiao, everyone's going to want to see that, and they want to pay for it. And then you got this card, and potentially are people going to be in a dilemma where they only want to pay for one, and if that's the case, they're going to pay for the Mayweather.
They also want one in July as well. They want one in July.
Well,
they want the June one, don't they? They want June 18th for Frampton and Quigg.
No, it's July, is it not?
I think it was July 18th, but I think it was. This is what summed it up for me perfectly, right? So I text my girlfriend earlier to say, they've put the Gavin fight on pay per view, and her response literally, she doesn't follow the sport closely, but she hears it from me, and she says, "Well, isn't boxing a sport? We pay for Sky Sports, don't we?" ? And people have just got this acceptance that pay per view is just a thing that fans just accept. I'll never understand it. I'll never get why. It doesn't matter what event, people just go, "Oh, well, that's pay-per-view, isn't it? Because that's better than this." Well, no. If you're watching, I know it's a different sport. If you're watching Forward Super Sunday on Sky Sports, and then you've got Hull versus, I don't know, Villa, someone rubbish, or Man United versus Man City, you're not paying anything different. It's a better quality, but it's the same event. You're watching the same sport, and it's the same thing. Pay-per-view harms the sport more than, forget the fake titles, forget the drug testing and everything else. The fact that fans have to pay extra where they don't with any other sport, and that we and fans just accept it. And while we keep accepting it, promoters will always push it. And if this show does well, they'll do it again and again. And it's just, I don't know. I'll never understand the acceptance. It drives me nuts. And like I said, I mean, I'm quite fortunate. I get to go to a lot of the shows that are pay per view, so I'm not actually having to shell my money out at home. So it'd be very easy for me to say, oh well, it's only 20 quid, but that's a lot of money for people. People's Sky bill that month, you're forking out for Sky Sports, which is 20 something quid now, plus £40 worth of pay per view, so 60 quid a month on top of your existing Sky bill was a joke. And the fact they've done it in the same month, I think, really takes the piss out of fans.
But I
Rant
don't
over.
understand that pay per view should only be brought in for fights that can't be made without it. Who says that they can't be made? It's just out of pure greed. Well, I didn't agree that Froch and Grove should have been pay per view. I fucking didn't agree to that.
Not the
Well,
first
yeah.
one.
No, definitely not the first one. I personally didn't really fucking agree with the Kessler one either. It's not as if these people were superstars. It's just the fact that the promoter. It's not so much that I don't think that Froch was like, I want pay per view money. No, I don't know if it was that, but it's the promoter that's fucking pushing for it. And Hearn came out with, was it not at the start of his reign that we'll not have like pay per views until 2015 or something like that? And as soon as he fucking could get his foot in, he just started lumping them on. Just started bringing
Well,
pay per views out. My fucking Audley Harrison and hey, I'm still pissing fucking raging at that. Paid
Well,
for it
because you know what,
twice.
as well, the problem is that we're happy. We want fight right. We all want fighters to earn money. Yeah, we all accept that it's a very dangerous job. They train very hard. We want them to get paid. But there comes a point when why should, for certain fights, the guys be earning millions in some cases, multi-million pounds for that fight? I mean, the fact that the two highest paid athletes in the world are so high above everyone else is because they can charge that, and they're willing. People are willing to pay that for fighters who probably, in the England case, I mean, Froch Groves, they're earning several million each. And we're funding that, and we think it's brilliant. Floyd Mayweather's got a £25,000 mouth guard, and everyone thinks it's fantastic. We're the ones paying for it, and it's a terrible model. And I thought we were going when pay per view left Sky, and we got Froch Butte, so we got a champion to come across from Canada to defend his title against Carl Froch, prime time UK time. I think it was like 11 o'clock, whatever it was. It was fantastic, and everyone got to see it. Everyone got to watch it. Next fight, let's whack him on box office where 10% of the audience will be there. Yeah, the fight will earn some money, but it knackers the sport. It really does. It's a great card there, May 30th, I have to say. It's a wicked card, and I think it's a brilliant set they've got together.
Alex, I think you've got a quote from Mr. Edward Hearn on pay-per-view as well, ready?
Oh yeah, this is what Brian mentioned it earlier about what he was saying. Edward was saying back in 2011 that he didn't want pay-per-views. He didn't want to be pushing these out for a few years. So this is what Eddie Hearn had to say back in 2011 after Sky made the decision to bin pay-per-view fights for a while. Eddie Hearn decides to say, I'm not obsessed with having pay-per-view fights. Some people just want to be pay-per-view fighters, but if you're a pay-per-view fighter, you might earn a little bit more money, but not a lot of people will get to watch your fight. If we're going to grow the sport, I want to see less pay-per-views. All I care about is growing the sport and delivering for fans, and the response we're getting from fans at the moment drives me on to do more and more in the sport.
It reminds me of the Bob Arum quote, yesterday I was lying, today I'm telling the truth. It's just, I mean, yeah, I just think that I said it on one of our other videos. I think Hearn, where he's so active with interviews and videos and on Twitter and stuff, you can catch him out on things that he said, where he's said one thing and done another because he's given so much, and that's rubbish. He'd put as many, if he had all these stars, he'd love to make all these pay-per-view fights as many as he could. It's just that, the Froch Groves one, because of what happened in the first fight, which no one expected, it helped obviously make the second one unbelievably huge, the biggest ever, and the value, I think Paul said, the value cleverly success that it had, it's shown them that what, we don't need to have a mega fight. Matchroom, Sky, they're great at selling stuff. They're great at hyping things up, and people buy into it. And they've obviously got a figure in mind for this card that they need to do, and I'm sure they'll reach it. And that's the problem. Whether people say they're not paying or people say it's not pay per view, they'll have their figure, and I think they'll reach that figure, and then it'll be another pay per view event not in the summer again. They're already talking the winner faces Brandon Rios in August. So Cal Brook, Brandon Rios, another pay per view right there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You've just got to you've got to talk by not paying, and it's as simple as that. You can't just buckle, a couple hours before the event, like a lot of people I saw did on Twitter and the forums. They all said, "Oh, I'm going to buy it anyway. I'm sure it'll be fine," and then they all regretted it as soon as that pay-per-view finished. Don't fucking slate this one. If you're one of the people that are slating this, don't fucking go and regret it on the day of the fight and say, "Oh, I'll buy it anyway." There are other methods. We post enough streams and shit to see that there are other methods. But the problem with this is I think it's a good card, but you can't justify pay-per-view models like this all the time.
That's the problem. I mean, to a fan who's maybe only interested in the big names, doesn't watch boxing as much as maybe some people, and only sees it now and again on Sky Sports, they might have bought that value cleverly pay-per-view because they were sucked into the hype of that they don't like each other and it's going to be a war. These two going at it for 12 rounds. They might have bought that, and because they're not like a big boxing fan, they might have said, "I'm not paying for that shit again unless it's a massive a Mayweather type fight." They might see this card, they'll look at it and say, "I don't know who Gradovic is. I don't know who Jorge Linares is. Cal Brook's in with Frankie Gavin, who we saw on the last Sky card, who is shit and bored everyone." And it might work out where they're not paying for this one, where they paid for that one. And like you said, this card is so much better, and it'd be a disservice because this is the card they should be paying for over that one.
Well, that's karma, isn't it? So,
yeah, people will buckle, but then again, I don't like when they say, "Well, if you don't, no one's forcing you to buy it." Well, you're right, no one is forcing you, but the option is you watch it on a stream illegally, which, I mean, granted, a lot of us do it, but it is still illegal, and it's still, it could be choppy sound, it could cut in and out. You want to be able to watch these fights properly. You want to be able to watch the British, one of Britain's few world champions in Kell Brook, true world champion, defend his title. Why should we have to say, "Well, just don't watch it then"? It's absolute nonsense. I want to watch all of these fights, and a lot of people will as well. I think the pay-per-view will do pretty well, actually. I think they can build up Brook Gavin. And actually, I was quite impressed at the weigh-in. I thought that Gavin was no smaller than Brook. I thought they matched up quite well. He talked a good game. I mean, Brook still might blast him out, but hopefully we get a decent fight out of it. There's 3 very good fights on that bill, plus the Olympic heavyweight Sonny Liston hero. I think it'll do brilliantly. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I just want to pay for it.
You think that Brook Gavin's a good fight then? While we're on the subject, we might as well discuss the main event. You think Brook Gavin's a good fight?
If you look at the IBF ranking, if you look at the IBF rankings, here's the names of people that he could be fighting instead. So Chris Van Heerden, this is for Brook. Frederick Lawson, Dakari, he wouldn't get Bizier because he's lost already. Saddam Ali wouldn't fight over here. Diego Chavez. Right, that's pretty much your list. That's top 15 ranked IBF. Would I want to watch any of those above Frankie Gavin fighting Brook? No. So Brook has got it. Gavin's got his ranking, his top 5, whether you like it or not. So he is ranked. It's a British guy who's going to come in and really want to win, as opposed to someone like Donut Dan who came over here and didn't look that bothered. So, like I said, it might be very one-sided, but I think Gavin, he's been training for weeks. He's very confident. He's taken the fight and he's not getting big money for it because he thinks he's really got an opportunity. Now, that might be him being stupid, but I think he goes the distance with Brook and I think he makes it interesting. I hope he does anyway.
I think personally that, you saw Amir Khan get a ton of abuse for fighting Algieri. I think the saving grace for Brook is if this was his second fight or he's the last fight of the year, I think he'd be getting a hell of a lot of abuse for fighting Frankie Gavin. Not that Frankie Gavin hasn't got talent and people believe that he can improve, but going off his last few performances, it doesn't really, no one really cares about seeing it. But because he only fought down a couple of months ago, and because it looks like he's going to fight again in August, personally, I don't think it's a great fight, and I don't think Gavin has much of a chance. But a fight being active.
Would you rather Brook just? That's what I mean. So the argument is he fights in March or he waits till July, August to fight Brandon. Well, I'd rather he fought. I'd rather he fought anybody.
I think Cal Brook. I think after he fought Dan, I was expecting him to sit out until the summer. July, August, and try and get this big name. But if he can get out and he's got the fight, I think more champions should be doing that. Yeah, it's like Golovkin. If he's fighting 4 times a year, 3 times a year, they're not always going to be fantastic opponents. And, Frankie Gavin, you never know. It's a British fight, and I think people will buy into that.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think that when was the last time 2 British fighters fought each other for a welterweight world title? It's a long time ago, I think. And we're not going to get the big fights yet. And Brook, if Brook fights 4 times a year, more power to him. If he beats Frankie Gavin pretty easily, I think the Brandon Rios matchup is so good for Brook that I think Brook would absolutely steamroll him.
But
So, and then you can get him out again in December.
but
Maybe he can't. Maybe it'll be someone else.
I
Why
just want
not?
to know though, Paul. You know how they were saying about Kell Brook. You know he's got Mayweather and Pacquiao in his sights because he's the only other welterweight champion. If Frankie Gavin can pull this off, does he dare dream?
Oh, Frankie the Mayweather. I think that could be. I can see that name a lot. Could you imagine Frankie, as bad as he is at press conferences, trying to deal with the media hype train of a mega fight like that? It'd be pretty hilarious to watch. But I mean, like I said, you know what? I mean, I'll openly admit I have a bias in the situation because as much as I'm a big Kell Brook fan and I've been to see Kell, I mean, I remember I think I was at like Kell's eighth or ninth fight years and years ago, and I'm a big Brook fan. I think he's done well to get to the position he is, but I'm a massive Frankie Gavin fan. I believe in the ability that he's got. All I want is for him just to put every bit of effort in, which I don't think he's done in the past, into that one fight. I mean, I put a bit of money down on him because, like I said, I really want him to do it. He probably won't, and he will probably lose. But even if he loses, as long as he gives a really strong account of himself, I don't think Gavin does himself any harm in this fight. And it was only 10 quid. So, that's half my box office. I don't know what I'm moaning about money. I've just wasted 10 quid on betting on Frankie Gavin.
Think about how much money you've wasted going down Villa Park as well. I mean, come on.
Well, I was going to say, people were talking about bad pay-per-views earlier, and I was thinking of the absolute shite ones I've forked out money for. Khan Salita pretty much stands alone for me in a worst pay-per-view purchase.
Well,
I didn't pay for Hey Harrison because I was already there.
on the
Sure.
subject of you bringing up Khan, this is why I think the Gavin fight is a bit of a PR disaster for Brook, because obviously there was a huge backlash and outroar about Khan potentially fighting Algieri, which is may or may not be happening, and then Brook saying that he's going to be fighting Thurman, Bradley, Floyd and Pacquiao winner, and then he goes and fights Gavin. It's a bit of a PR disaster. I agree that it's good for him to be active. I've always said that about any fighter, just to be out there active and fighting more. But the fact that he goes and fights Gavin on a pay-per-view certainly isn't doing him any favours.
I don't agree with that because I think it's a very different situation to Khan. So basically, Brook is saying, I want to fight Amir Khan. That's the fight I want next. Amir Khan is saying, no, I'm not going to fight you. Instead of fighting you, I'm choosing to fight Algieri. Whereas Brook is saying, I want to fight Amir Khan. That's the fight I want. Khan is saying no, so I'm going to get a defense out in the meantime. So they're not, I don't, people have been saying, well, it's, you can't criticize one without criticizing the other. Well, you can because they're different scenarios. Khan is
Yeah,
the reason that Brook Khan isn't happening at the moment.
yeah. I don't think Brook
Brook could
deserves.
be fighting better opposition.
Yeah, but I don't
Who
think
do
right
you put him
now
in?
Brook deserves criticism. I think the criticism will come if in August Brandon Rios isn't getting off the plane to fight him. It's someone else
Yeah.
because that could happen or if Brooks doesn't fight in August, if Brook, you know, gets an injury and he has to sit out till November, December, then I think that's when the criticism could come in. So I think it's imperative that they do get a name fight. I mean, some people will trash Brandon Rios, but I think for Cal Brook, that's a perfectly fine fight considering, if you look at his career, that some of his opponents, Brandon Rios will be right up there. So as long as they get that kind of fight, I think people will won't mind his fight, but it's on the basis that he does bring in, well, Eddie Hearn does bring in someone who, people are going to be looking forward to seeing.
It'd be hilarious if he fought Sam Eggington in December. Just to
It
watch
wouldn't
flipping
it wouldn't
out.
surprise me.
Or maybe they can get a Howard Foster stoppage special and get Frankie and Cal part two.
They won't need one, mate. Frankie will have, won every round, so he won't need a dodgy
Get it at
stoppage.
St Andrews, better than Wembley.
Yeah, no.
I'd like to thank Alex Morris, Paul Webb, Brian King. I don't know where he's gone, but he's vanished. Hopefully you keep listening to the videos, subscribing and commenting below, and let us know what you think of the May 30th pay-per-view event. Thanks.
Bye.